Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to season 2 of the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E method, an infertility warrior, 2-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. I'm super excited about today's guest, and I know you ladies are going to be too. Our guest is Amy Medling. She is the best-selling author of Healing PCOS and a certified health coach who specializes in working with women with Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, PCOS, who are frustrated and who have lost all hope when the only solution their doctors are offering them is to lose weight, take a pill, and live with their symptoms. In response, Amy founded PCOS Diva and developed a proven protocol of supplements, diet, and lifestyle programs that offer women tools to help them gain control of their PCOS and regain their fertility, femininity, health, and happiness. So listen in as we talk all about what it means to be a PCOS diva and give you some practical tips for not just surviving, but actually thriving with this condition. And spoiler alert, you can get pregnant if you have PCOS, despite what your doctor has told you. So listen in. You guys are not going to want to miss this show. It is one awesome show. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Amy to our show. Today's episode is presented by TwoPlus Fertility, a comfortable and easy to use at-home device that increases the chances of a sperm meeting an egg when you're trying to conceive. When you try naturally, less than 1% of sperm reach the egg. TwoPlus Fertility's goal is to fix that. For more information, visit 2plusfertility.com and use code Kayla30 at checkout for 30% off your order. Hey, Amy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
For sure. I can't wait to dive in. So tell me a little more. Tell our audience who you are and kind of how you started working in women's health.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Amy Medling. I'm the founder of PCOS Diva, which is a site that helps women with PCOS reclaim their fertility, femininity, health, and happiness. And I am a woman with PCOS, like a lot of the women that find PCOS Diva. I struggled with doctors prescribing the birth control, the pharmaceutical pill metformin, which only, made symptoms worse for me, and feeling like I kind of hit a wall with conventional medicine. I sort of struck out on my own to look for alternative treatments, because at the time I was 30 and I was feeling way too young to feel so old.
Right.
Sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, which I'm sure you hear from, a lot of your clients.
Yes.
And I, through spending lots of time on PubMed, and this was back in, like 2004 or so. So there wasn't a lot of information out there, but really pieced together a lifestyle that was able to put my PCOS symptoms at bay. So much so that after doctors told me that they would have to jump through hoops to get me pregnant when I was younger. And then after I was able to have 2 children with the help of fertility treatments, and then told I would never have kids without fertility, I had my 3rd child at 37, after I had really reclaimed my health. And having a little girl after 2 boys, and knowing that she probably has the strong genetics for PCOS, like I do. My mother has PCOS, and I would venture to say that both my maternal and paternal grandmothers did, that her chances are, pretty high that she will be diagnosed too. She's 12. So, I'm really working on, helping her epigenetics from expressing, that those PCOS genes. But I wanted her to realize that PCOS wasn't the negative thing that I once thought it was, that it's an opportunity to live life like a diva.
I love that. And I love to hear the stories of getting pregnant, naturally. And later I had my first at 37, my second at 40 after I was told I couldn't. So it's definitely, I always tell people, be your own advocate. Don't listen to the doctor. They tell you can't. If deep down you can, then go for it.
That's so true. It really breaks my heart when I talk to women that now are past their reproductive years, and they were told in their early 20s that they would never have children because they had PCOS, and they take that as their truth. And as you and I both know, that's not really the case. Most women with PCOS can have healthy pregnancies and take them to term and have healthy children. So if you have heard that, be your own advocate and do your own research, and don't take, everything that the doctor says at face value.
Amen to that, for sure. So tell me what a PCOS diva is. What does that mean?
Well, when I was struggling with my PCOS symptoms, I had 2 little boys, and I, my husband, and I was really putting myself last on the list to make sure that all of their needs were met. And, that wasn't putting my oxygen mask on in order to help everybody else. And, I really lost my voice, even when it came to advocating for, what I needed to ask for in terms of food that I should be eating. And I was always afraid to, ruffle feathers at a restaurant, to ask for something cooked a certain way. And once I started kind of asserting myself and asking for what I want and making sure I had time for self-care, there was this, you may have read it in my book, there was this specific moment in time, and we were at like a Texas Roadhouse steak restaurant, and I was, ordered, an entree with the sides, and I was being a real diva, as my husband had said, because I wanted to make sure my sweet potato didn't have marshmallows and caramel sauce on it. And, my broccoli was cooked with butter and not, artificial oils. So when the waiter stepped away from the table, my husband said, "When did you become such a diva?" And at first I kind of took that as a negative thing, but then as I thought about it, we really have to kind of be like that diva that asks for green M&Ms in her dressing room, and being really specific about what you need in order to take care of your health and yourself. And that's kind of when PCOS Diva and that concept of a woman that doesn't look at her PCOS diagnosis from a victim mentality. And that was something that I was doing. I was feeling really sorry for myself and kind of having like a pity party. And it wasn't until I realized that I could take control over my health and my symptoms that things started to change for me.
I love that. And I did read that story in your book, and I was like, yes, all the diva inside of me was like screaming. I love it. And it's so true. You have to be your own diva. You have to ask what you want and, get what you need for your health, for your life, for your children, all of it. So I love that you say that. Yeah.
Oh, and I just think, again, getting back to my daughter too, it's so good for girls, and boys to see their mom taking care of themselves and making sure that, she puts herself, as a priority. And like, even for an example, last night, I went to bed at 8:30 because I've been running and, just so much going on in life, and I have to be really careful to protect my adrenals.
Yes.
And so, I told everybody, you're on your own, and I'm going to bed. And guess what? Everybody still survived this morning.
Right. And I hear you. I try to be in bed about 8:30 myself. So I'm like, kids are in bed, I'm in bed. That's how it works around here. So I love that. And so talk to us about diagnoses. Why do you think it's so hard for people to get diagnosed with PCOS?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that a lot of doctors have this preconceived notion about what a woman with PCOS looks like. There's kind of this a classic form of PCOS where a woman has really severe insulin resistance. She could be very overweight or obese. Certainly issues with periods, and signs of androgen excess, like hair falling out where you don't want it to, hair growing where you do want it, where you don't want it. So I think that a lot of doctors think that there's this really stereotypical woman with PCOS, and they're not really. That's about 50% of the PCOS population. There's a lot of women that are thin with PCOS, that they may have periods. And then when doctors get into diagnosing a woman with PCOS, they'll often look at using a vaginal ultrasound to see if there's that classic string of pearls around the ovaries. And interestingly, 30% of women with PCOS don't have that classic string of pearls. And you can also have polycystic ovaries. A lot of teenage girls will have polycystic ovaries, but not have PCOS. And then as women age, you're not going to have as many cysts. And so a lot of women who have received a PCOS diagnosis earlier in life, as they enter their, early 40s, perimenopause, then they're told, well, you no longer have PCOS because you don't have this string of pearls. So it's very tricky, I think, to diagnose. But right now, the diagnostic criteria, doctors are still using the Rotterdam criteria. So it's essentially 2 out of 3 of the following criteria: irregular menstrual cycles and ovulatory cycles. That's the first criteria. The second is that polycystic ovary is seen on an ultrasound. And then the third would be elevated androgens. So if you have 2 out of 3, then you will often be diagnosed with PCOS.
Gotcha. That's super frustrating too, because it's like you would think our doctors would be, telling us the right thing and would be diagnosing us appropriately, but it doesn't sound like they are. So that's crazy.
That's where you have to become a diva and become educated so that you can be empowered to advocate for yourself when you're at the doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding, what labs to ask for. On my site, PCOSDiva.com, if you go to PCOSDiva.com/labs, I have a labs guide that you can download. And these are labs that I recommend that you ask for. And it's, it really, and this is something that I was guilty of, when doctors would take labs, and then they would say, everything looks good. And I would say, oh, phew, I feel really good about that.
Right.
But I would have no idea what the results were and what the normal parameters were. And so having a labs guide, so you understand the different criteria, and then printing out your labs or keeping them in some, I'm old school, so I have a binder and I have all of my lab work for the last probably 15 years in that binder. But a lot of women just don't know, really what their markers are, so that they can have a better understanding and kind of speak the doctor speak.
I love that you say that, because I'm a big, we talk about it all the time on this show. You need to be your own advocate. You need to know your numbers. Definitely get your lab results, print those out, look at them, because there's a difference between, and I'm sure you agree, normal and optimal. We want to be optimal with our hormone levels, not just normal. So
exactly.
Yeah. And so you talk a little bit about the upsides of PCOS. What does that mean? What are some of the benefits of having this condition?
Yeah. So there, I think of her as kind of a mentor. It was this Dr. Nancy Dunn, and she wrote one of the first books for patients on PCOS. And she kind of like reframes PCOS as women who are in kind of like a high androgen state. So you have elevated testosterone. And there are some benefits to having elevated testosterone. As women with PCOS, with that high androgen state, we tend to be stronger. We have more, we can grow muscle mass faster. We tend, and there's studies done, and I wrote this about it in my book, that women with high androgens tend to be leaders, in the business world. We tend to be risk takers, and that can be good for somebody like myself that's an entrepreneur. I'm ended up going from, a woman struggling with PCOS to, creating a business where I'm helping other women based on what I've learned along the way. And I don't know if I could have done that without that elevated androgens in order to kind of take the risk. I probably would still be in, working in marketing in corporate America. So that can be a real benefit. And there's been some research that shows that women with PCOS have higher visual spatial skills in like cognitive testing, which is really interesting. And there's some research that suggests that we could remain fertile longer than our, non-PCOS counterparts. It seems that a lot of us are entering menopause later, and there could be a real benefit to that. I was just interviewing Dr. Laura Bryden. I don't know if you're familiar with her work.
Yes.
She has a new book out, The Woman's Hormone Manual, I think.
Hormone Repair Manual.
Yes.
Can you say that again really fast? I think we said it at the same time.
Yeah, the Woman's Hormone Repair Manual. So it's for women in perimenopause and menopause. That's what that book is geared towards. And she talks about how important it is to maintain your cycle for as long as you can, because having that progesterone and having that natural cycling can really help protect your brain and your bones. And so I'm just kind of extrapolating that if women with PCOS remain have their cycles longer, I think that would just go to benefit us in the long run. So And then there's some interesting discussion about how PCOS genes are ancient genes. It's an ancient disorder. It's been around forever. And because of the insulin resistance, we were able to fare better during times of famine.
Wow.
Than our non-counterparts. And then because we had a little, because we don't ovulate every month, or many of us don't, that we didn't have as many children in ancient days than women that didn't have PCOS. So we were able to potentially be leaders and kind of matriarchs, I guess, of like these hunter-gatherer communities, because we had more time on our hands because we didn't have as many children. So that's another kind of interesting idea that I've heard from researchers. So there's I think that there's a lot of benefits for being a woman with PCOS, and to find out that you have PCOS early in life and to make the lifestyle changes in order to manage your symptoms. And I was just coaching a woman, her early 20s yesterday, and I was telling her what an advantage she has on her peers and with her long-term health, because if she now is focusing on getting lots of nutrient-dense food and taking supplements to help with insulin resistance and inflammation, her health is going to be better down the road if she continues to do this over the next 20 years than her friends that don't have PCOS and are still, eating Doritos and pizza and the standard American diet.
Right. I love that. So many good things that come from having PCOS. And it's, I think sometimes people hear that they have this condition and then it's almost like a death sentence. They're like, oh my gosh, how do I live with this? What if I can't become a mom? And it's just not true from what you've just said. So I love that we're shining a light on this. It's so important for women to realize. I love it.
Yeah, you can absolutely thrive with PCOS. I mean, my goal is for women to move beyond the pain and struggle of PCOS so that they can go on and live the life they were meant to live without it holding them back. I think so much mind share when you're struggling is spent on the illness, and we need to move beyond that, and you can absolutely feel better so that it doesn't really even, it becomes a thought and that you need to keep up your lifestyle, but you can then take that mind share and then go off and use it in a more productive way, to help somebody else.
For sure. I love that. So talk to me about myths. Are there any myths around PCOS that we want to debunk? Maybe like one or two?
Well, I think we already talked about how women with PCOS can't get pregnant.
Right.
I think that the birth control pill and the drug metformin, that those are the magic pills and that will make your PCOS go away.
Right.
I think that's another myth. They, in my mind, they really act as band-aids. They can kind of suppress symptoms, but you can't be on the birth control pill forever. Excuse me. So, at some point you're going to have to come off of it, and all of those, symptoms are going to come back and probably come back with a vengeance. So that is, I think, is a big myth. Another one is that a hysterectomy will make PCOS go away. And that is, and it really baffles me that so many doctors, even in today's environment, really believe that. But PCOS is somewhat of a misnomer, because polycystic ovaries, it's kind of a symptom of PCOS, but it's not the root factor. So getting rid of your ovaries is not going to get rid of the metabolic issues, the inflammation issues, and the hormone issues that are kind of at the root of PCOS.
Exactly.
And then I think another myth would be that once you're done with your childbearing years, PCOS goes away, that it's just a reproductive disorder, and that is not true. PCOS is something that is going to, be with you through menopause and postmenopause, and something that still is going to have to be managed.
I love that. And those are definitely myths that I've heard and we've talked about, and I'm glad we're debunking those because they're just not true. So I love that. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to dive into more practical tips on being a PCOS diva and thriving with PCOS. And I want to get into talking about your book and how that's helped so many people, become a diva and thrive with PCOS. So we'll be right back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. Happy to share the sponsor of today's episode, TwoPlus Fertility, which was designed to help solve the issue of less than 1% of sperm reaching the egg when you're trying to conceive at home. Comfortable and easy to use, each device, which is as seamless as using a tampon, can be used up to 4 times a month. It's soft and comfortable, drug-free, and made of 100% medical-grade silicone. TwoPlus believes that every drop counts and encourages users to insert TwoPlus Sperm Guide before sex in an effort to stop sperm from flowing back out of the vagina post-sex. TwoPlus wants to bring as much sperm to the right place in the vaginal tract and create an experience that can be tried from the comfort of your own home or hotel room. Learn more about this product, which can be discreetly shipped to your doorstep by visiting 2plusfertility.com. Available in the US, the UK, and Singapore. And don't forget, use code Kayla30 at checkout for 30% off your order. Welcome back, Amy. Thanks for being here.
Oh, looking forward to continue our conversation.
For sure. Me too. So let's talk practical tips. Can you give us maybe your top 3 things that we need to think about if we're living with PCOS, we're trying to manage it? Where is a few places to start healing and thriving?
Yeah, so I've kind of broken my book down and a lot of my content in my programs down to 3 areas. You have to think like a diva before you can eat like a diva and move like a diva. So we talked briefly about moving from a victim mindset to an in control mindset. So there's so much that you can do that's within your own control to manage PCOS, that you don't have to look for a magic pill. I love this concept that you are the magic pill. And the choices that you make day after day, in a consistent pattern is going to really determine, whether you can manage your symptoms or not. So thinking like a PCOS diva, forming a partnering mindset with your body and realizing that your signs and symptoms of PCOS, it's really your body giving you messages that there's something out of balance. So it's really important to partner with your body. I think there's a lot of women who with PCOS, and it's a process, they feel betrayed by their body. They don't feel feminine anymore. They're, you have all of these androgen issues and infertility issues, and you start to really hate your body, hate yourself. And so you have to reframe that in order to move forward. So that, those, and I have other aspects of the PCOS diva mindset. But I'll move on to, eating like a PCOS diva. I don't think that there's any one size fits all approach to eating, although I think whatever an anti-inflammatory diet is for you, is the way to go. I mean, I think for most women, that means, gluten free or low gluten and dairy free or low dairy. You need to like partner with your body and learn the signs and signals that it's giving to you based on the food that you're eating. I'm sure you've covered food sensitivities on
Yes.
your program, and so there's so many different food sensitivities. So you kind of need to figure out what's causing inflammation for you, whether it's like a histamine response, or just if the food is causing leaky gut. You have to do a lot of kind of experimentation and investigation. But besides, looking at food sensitivities and inflammatory foods, I think a lot of women that are suffering from PCOS are overfed and aren't undernourished. And we need a lot of nutrition from plant-based foods and fiber from plant-based foods to help with hormonal balance, and quelling that inflammation. I am not a big believer in, vegan or vegetarian diets to manage PCOS. I kind of think that one of the reasons that a lot of women initially feel better on a vegan diet is that they're eating a lot more vegetables and they're eliminating dairy. But I think at some point, you're going to need to bring some animal protein on board for the amino acids, and other, nutrients that you get from, animal protein. So I know that might not be a popular thing to say.
Yeah, no, we talk about that a lot on this show. Like I always say I'm not here to change your mind if you are vegan for religious purposes, but if you're doing it because it's healthy, it's really not that healthy. You need some animal protein.
Yeah.
I love that you say that.
Yeah. And I think also, I kind of alluded to the different types of PCOS in the beginning, the classic form of PCOS. I think women with PCOS have varying degrees of insulin resistance. And for some women, like a keto type diet can be very helpful, but I don't think it should be a blanket recommendation for every woman with PCOS. I think a lot of us that are on the thinner side, that have adrenal issues, need some carbohydrates to feel grounded and stable and satiated. So again, you have to kind of experiment to see what works for you. But overall, I think lots of plant-based food, good healthy fats, enough clean protein, and complex, carbohydrates, staying away from those simple carbohydrates, and certainly sugar. I think that's one thing that we can say overall for everyone, we need to really steer clear from.
For sure.
And then in terms of moving like a diva, I think a lot of women have this idea of exercise as punishment. I know I certainly did. I remember feeling like, well, gee, if I eat this donut for breakfast, if I run for an hour on the treadmill at the gym, I'll like cancel out, the bad, from that donut. And it just, I've learned that it just doesn't work that way. And that women with PCOS have, it's like a 60% higher, I think 60% of women with PCOS are affected by anxiety or depression. And I think exercising from a standpoint of like making a mind-body connection is really important to help relieve that stress and anxiety. I am a big proponent of strength-based exercise, like kind of combining that with high intensity interval training, kind of like, I mean, CrossFit, but not so intense, I guess.
Right.
Finding like something that works for you is super beneficial for women with PCOS. You need to have kind of those intervals and not like going like training for a marathon where you're running for long periods of time at like a single exertion, because women with PCOS have to mind their adrenals, and that kind of exercise can really tax them and kind of drain us, and it can be kind of counter productive and become somewhat hormonally disruptive. So on top of finding an exercise that works for you in terms of strength building and interval training and making a mind-body connection, finding something that brings you joy in the movement, and that is what's going to help you create a sustainable practice. So, experimenting with what works for you. I know for me, I like to be told what to do. I like to go to a gym and, somebody telling me what I need to do to work out, and that's what works. And then having accountability where if I sign up 3 days a week and if I don't make it, I got to pay $10.
Right.
That really helps me.
Yes.
But finding something, because you have to move your body. And even if it's, going for a walk every day and then combining with some type of strength training, walking is a great exercise for balancing hormones. And then I put sleep in the Move Like a Diva category.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we do when we're not moving, but sleep is just so underrated for women with PCOS. We don't put enough priority on sleep. And I think we tend to need more sleep than our non-PCOS friends. So, making sure that you're getting to bed, I think by 10 o'clock at night, and then taking advantage of the sunlight in the morning to reset circadian cycles. So getting up like around 6 a.m. I think is ideal. And it kind of is aligned with kind of the Ayurvedic. I love the science of Ayurveda, and that's really aligned with that as well.
I talk about that some on the show too, setting that natural circadian rhythm clock, and even looking at the moon I have found is helpful for some, where you're kind of setting that clock at night to help that serotonin and that dopamine to be, made so you can sleep easily. So I love that.
I like that idea. Yeah. I mean, I try to get that morning sunlight, and then I always try to like walk out to my mailbox, like in that noon bright sun. But I love that idea of looking at the moon in the evening too. I think you'd be surprised at how much it does affect your sleep, getting that early morning sunlight. And women with PCOS, scientists are finding have disrupted circadian rhythms and low melatonin, and that all kind of adds to the storm of PCOS.
For sure. So I know there's an insulin component to PCOS. So talk to me about meal timing. What do you recommend for when we time?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So when I was really suffering with PCOS, I was a nighttime eater and a snacker.
A lot of us are.
And I would have dinner, but I would sit, watch my shows at night. And it was like my time to relax. The kids were in bed and I would be snacking on popcorn or ice cream or, whatever that kind of comfort food was for me. And I was amazed at when I stopped that routine, how good I felt. And now I know that I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but I was intermittent fasting. So I began fasting, after dinner, I just stopped with the snacking. So that was probably about, 6 to 7 o'clock. And then I would have like a 12-hour fast, and I wouldn't be breaking that fast until breakfast. And my symptoms were getting better. And now I know it's the intermittent fasting has been shown to really help women with insulin resistance. And now I try to even extend that fast, not every day, but a few days a week. I will kind of do that 16 8. So I'm trying to eat within an 8-hour window. I find that if I do that too often, it does kind of affect my adrenal. And I have to be really careful with that. But I think that timed eating within a 12 on, 12 off, and then maybe experimenting how far you can go with that. I don't think I would recommend going any further than 16/8.
Yeah.
And then, I think when people are really insulin resistant and just starting out, they often need snacks. They need a mid-morning snack and a mid-afternoon snack. I kind of allocate that in my plan in my book, but I do say that if you can kind of work it out so that you have breakfast and you can make it to lunch, have a hearty enough breakfast that you can make it to lunch without feeling hungry. I do think that most women still need that afternoon snack when you have that slump around 3 o'clock. But, not eating all day long. Like you really need to sit down and have a very conscious, mindful meal and snack. I think that will help a long way with insulin resistance. It kind of, you cycle in with that circadian rhythm, and that's all part of the timed eating is connected with circadian cycles.
I love that. And that's kind of what I do too. I've stopped all the snacking. I don't struggle with PCOS, but I am heading into, mid 40s into that menopause era. So I've found that stopping that snacking and kind of going, like you said, overnight with the fast is perfect. And it helps to kind of, my insulin resistance is better. I feel better. And so it can work on, many different ways. So I love that you say that.
And honestly, it's really easy to do once you get into a habit of it. And, I recommend in the evening to have a nice hot cup of tea. That can be if you're sipping on something, not like a big glass of red wine, that's
right.
That can be really, once in a while, but that can be really hormonally disruptive. So a nice glass, cup of herbal tea. I love like holy basil, Tulsi tea is great. Stress reduction, or, any of your like sleepy time teas.
Yeah, I love that. And to go back to sleep, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but sometimes if you are noticing waking up a lot during the night, like 2, 3 a.m., that's your blood sugar. So if you're one that's snacking a lot and then you go to bed and then you're waking up, that is your blood sugar. So many people don't realize that. And just cutting that snacking can help with that middle of the night wake up.
Yeah. And I think you have to see that as a sign and symptom and kind of experiment with it. I know for me, like if I have an early dinner at 5, I can't make it through the night. Like I'll have to have a little something with protein, and fat before I go to bed to kind of get myself through. But if I have dinner at 6:30, I can make it through. So yeah, you just have to see what works for you, but that's a great sign and symptom that there's something up with your blood sugar.
For sure. For sure. So tell us a little more about your book. Where can we find it? What is it called? All of that.
Yeah. So, thank you. So my book is called Healing PCOS. It's a 21-day guide to thriving with PCOS, and it's available, on Amazon, in the bookstores. It's on Audible. There's paperback, hardcover version of it as well. The Audible, I did not read my Audible version because I feel like my voice would put people to sleep, but I have a lovely narrator, and she does a great job, and you can download, the PDFs for the meal plan and recipes as well.
I love it. And it's a wonderful book. I was telling you earlier, I love it. I think it's written really well. It's laid out well. So all of you ladies listening that have PCOS, definitely grab a copy of this book because it is a great, great resource.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I've been doing this for a long time. I started my blog in 2009. So I have a ton of articles, and I think now over 160 podcasts.
Wow.
Where I interview different experts on PCOS on my site at PCOSDiva.com.
I love that. And that was my next question. Where can people find you? So your website, and then on social media, where are you at there?
So I'm on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook. It's just /PCOS Diva on all of those. So I'm very active on social media. So come say hello.
Yes, I love it. And we're going to link all of that in the show notes. We'll link your book and all of that stuff where they can get it. So perfect.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I have a guide. I call it the PCOS Guide to Health and Hope. And it's available at PCOSDiva.com/hope. And it's kind of like a mini book. It's like 36 pages long. And it really helps you navigate, if you think you have PCOS, to getting a diagnosis, to who you want to work with, on your health, who you want on your health team. So it helps you kind of be a diva at the doctor.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. And we'll definitely link that as well. Awesome. So any final thoughts before we close out here today?
Well, I want to bring a message of hope to women with PCOS. As you had said earlier, this isn't a death sentence. You can absolutely, have a full and beautiful life with PCOS. And there's just a lot of blessings to it. So, there's a lot of hope, and you can absolutely learn how to thrive. And, I'm happy to help in any way that I can in that process.
I love that. I love that. So thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yes. And thank everybody for listening to the Hormone Puzzle podcast. Until next time, thank you guys so much. Bye for now. Don't forget to check out today's sponsor, TwoPlus Fertility, a comfortable and easy to use at-home device that increases the chances of a sperm meeting an egg when you're trying to conceive. Visit 2plusfertility.com to order yours, and don't forget to use code Kayla30 at checkout for 30% off your order. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.